As revealed earlier this afternoon on this program by political editor Andrew Clennell, Sky News has revealed new details of the federal government's plan to reduce power prices ahead of the National Cabinet meeting on Friday. The government's set to announce a cap on gas prices of $13 per gigajoule and is seeking to have New South Wales and Queensland implement a cap on the domestic coal price of $125 a tonne. These details were released to state and territory governments overnight. A key sticking point at this stage, there is no compensation on offer to the states if they comply with the request to cap the price of coal. Let's get some analysis with Tim Buckley. He's Director of Climate Energy Finance. Tim, do you think that cap, as I just mentioned there and reported by my colleague Andrew earlier, is that about right?
It's at the top end of the 7 to 10 range for gas that had originally been discussed, and then the range moved to 10 to 12. Now it's 13, but 13 is at least half where the gas price has been for the last 6 months. It's a good start. It's a necessary start. It's a necessary intervention in what is, to me, an absolutely clear market failure. So they had to do something. The longer they left it, the more pain for every Australian. So it's a good start.
If the states agree, those affected, the coal-producing states, to that cap, should they be afforded compensation for lost royalties, Tim?
Well, it would only apply to domestic sales, and so when we look at the East Coast gas market, 70% of the gas is actually exported as LNG. That won't be affected. 30% of the remaining 30% is actually burned on Gladstone Island to liquefy the methane gas they're exporting. So we're actually talking about a very small amount of gas in the substance of the huge East Coast gas industry. And likewise for export coal, there is no impact. So the royalties that New South Wales get, 7 to 8% of revenue, that will be unaffected for 80 to 90% of all coal exported from New South Wales, and for 90+% of coal exported from Queensland. So at the end of the day, I think the New South Wales government, like the Queensland government, understands the massive ongoing energy pain, energy price pain, the mortgage pain that is being inflicted on 22 million Australians right now. They realise that foregoing $1 billion of royalties is nothing compared to the tens of billions of dollars of pain that the industry is inflicting on consumers.
What do you say to the argument that the way to drive down the price is to boost supply and that these interventions are too risky?
At the end of the day, I think we have a total market failure. We have an oligopoly of 3 East Coast gas producers that control 90+% of the East Coast gas production and reserves in Australia. The ACCC has defined that very clearly as an oligopoly. I will go one step further and call it a cartel, because the definition of a cartel is a group of companies that extract monopoly rents from the public using their pricing power. And we have seen prices of gas and coal, but gas particularly, up 5 to tenfold versus where it was only 5 years ago. And that is the definition of gouging of consumers. So it's a market failure. Is there any easy intervention? No. It's an unprecedented intervention, but it's an unprecedented market failure. But the idea, Kieran, as you suggest, the gas industry has been saying, oh, just increase production. That is absolutely fallacious, because the reality is any new gas greenfield production will take 5 years or more to come on stream. Like Narrabri gas, there is no gas pipeline there. So not only do they not have any gas production, they don't even have the gas pipeline to get it to the consumers. That's a 5-year plus proposal. It will do absolutely nothing to solve the energy crisis that's smashing us right now and going to be smashing us in 2023. So at the end of the day, an unprecedented market failure by a cartel requires a massive intervention. So I would argue this is the most conciliatory path that the federal government's taking. I would have gone bigger, as Rod Sims has said. I would have taken a bigger baseball bat to the negotiations. These gas cartel and the coal industry are using Australia's public resources, and they are exporting them and offering us to have the dregs at export price parity. My numbers are that the gas industry, the fossil fuel industry, will export almost $200 billion of fossil fuels this calendar year alone. Only 18 months ago, that number was $70 billion. They will make $120 to $140 billion of gross profit this year alone, this calendar year alone. $120 billion of profits, that's a windfall war profit. And you look at the pain that's inflicted on 22 million Australians, I would argue I would be bashing them with a bigger stick. I would be putting a progressive royalty in. I'd be making them pay corporate tax in Australia. I'd be removing the diesel fuel rebate. I would be making them pay some of those war profits back to the people of Australia, given they're using Australian assets.
Tim Buckley, Director of Climate Energy Finance, appreciate your time and your thoughts as always.